Hey guys, Nutnfancy, knife time again in the project. Let's talk about this one right here. Benchmade 10750 Vex. Man, it took me a long time to get around to filming this review. And I was thinking about it, I was like, man, why did it take so long? And it just dawned on me, I'm just not super excited about the Vex. I'm not. As I go down my talking points, dudes, you'll see why. I'm going to make the case of why I think there might be some better EDC alternatives in this price range than the Vex. Just my mileage, just the way I see things. You may differ. I still think it's an excellent little blade. I think it's high value. All of that, however, is drawn to a moot point because as of 2010, it's no longer in the Benchmade lineup. What you're seeing here is the reference sheet currently on the Benchmade website. If you Google it on the 10750 Vex, it gives all the specifications and stuff. But the red line as a whole, as we found out in 2010 Nutnfancy SHOT Show video, when we talked to the nice folks at Benchmade, is gone. They got rid of it. My thinking on that is that they found that it was probably diluting their blue line, their USA-made line, and there might have been some confusion, maybe some cannibalization, I guess. In other words, these red lines were selling better than their US-produced knives, and so they're like, oh, let's get rid of that. We want to keep the Benchmade, the upper end, superb quality, maybe a little bit more expensive blade, and they probably want to maintain that image. And the Vex is an excellent knife in its own right. Yes, it has some downsides I want to talk about, but it probably diluted that mission statement for Benchmade. That's why it's gone. Okay, however, if you still like it, and I'm sure dudes will love the Vex, probably already have the Vex. If you, for whatever reason, get turned on by the review, you want one, they're still out there. As of the filming of this video, Nutnfancy style, April 2010, the Vex is being sold at Cabela's for like $30 on sale on Cabela's website. That's going to go away very soon, so that's a moment in time, but move on it fast if you like it. For the money, I definitely think the blade's worth it. You're really not putting too much money out to get a lot of steel for what it is. POU size and weight, that's where I'm going to start off. Talking points, the video length will be what it is as we talk blades here. This is an EDC blade, everyday carry alternative. A great choice perhaps for just utility knife that you would take on your person all the time. That's an important distinction too, dudes, because it puts it in the category with some pretty fierce competition. Blades previously reviewed in the Nutnfancy project, by the way. For instance, one of my all-time faves, Kershaw Skyline. Oh, love that knife. The 1760 with a Sandvik 13C26 steel running about $30. That puts it, well, currently at the same price level, but when we talk about POU in the EDC category, this is my mileage. I'm not wearing the gloves, but I do have that little burn still healing up. Sorry about that. It's kind of nasty. Oh well, pressing. In the EDC category, dudes, I like a lightweight blade, generally speaking. Now, if you want a heavy duty special blade, I'm willing to take on some more weight for that. I think most dudes are. I kind of mentioned that in my Lone Wolf Blackfoot review. This might be the same category that guys maybe want a more substantial feeling knife. The Vex could do it. For me, what I use my EDC blades for, I like a smaller blade, a fast, tight lockup on my blade. Skyline is a perfect example of that. Previously reviewed once again. And it's super lightweight. What's this sucker weigh? I think I just said it. 2.4 ounces or something like that. I forget exactly. It's just phenomenal. This is chunky. 4.8 ounces. Actually, 4.6 ounces. Also, it's a little bit thick. I'll talk more about it when we get to handles, but the scales that they've chosen, or they did choose when they were making this knife, a little bit thick. Once again, let's roll in the Skyline. You can see that the G10 scale, scales as in plural, a little bit thinner on that. And then also an inevitable comparison, and I'm going to talk about that. See how it was a little bit slow to come out, a little more difficult to deploy? That's another thing I see with Advantage. But an inevitable comparison, and one I think I'm not the first to make, but I think it's really apropos. Big word! Spyderco Tenacious. Okay? Same price levels, more or less. Same rolls. This might be pressed into an emergency tactical. POU, understood. Lighter weight blade. This is a 4-ounce blade. This is almost an ounce heavier. Okay, So, and the size is actually pretty decent, maybe a little bit on the large size. Both of these blades actually for EDC rolls. That's just me. Let's getting back to the Vex. I think the blade could serve most guys and gals quite nicely in the EDC roll. Getting on to steel. No big surprise here for a high value overseas produced knife, and that is 8CR 14 MOV. Okay, persistence. Actually, where's that tenacious? I have a persistence and tenacious. They're both here. I always get them confused. I think I said that in my review of the persistence. Great blades, just awesome. They continue to be outstanding sellers for Spyderco, overseas produced blades as well. And now with the Vex gone, it's almost like they don't have competition, at least in the Benchmade lineup at this price point. The steels on these two knives, by the way, very similar. 8CR 13 MOV, 8CR 14 MOV. Very similar performance to AUS 8 steel. I talked about that in this review. Expect just a little bit more vanadium, a little bit more chromium in the 8CR 14 MOV choice that the Vex wears. And that might make it, actually, if I were to predict, about on par. Rust resistance, edge holding, toughness, all those things I think will be more than adequate for your EDC rolls that you put in. Getting on to blade shape. I love the blade shape. I think it's cool. Kind of a modified drop point. It has kind of an organic curvature here in the belly of it. And it's radiused on top with an unsharpened swedge. It's a handsome looking blade. Wearing a very Spyderco-like deployment hole on it. No thumb stud on this particular Benchmade. The blade, however, I find did not come super sharp out of box. That's going to be a hit from me. It is flat ground from the upper flat right here, coming down. I definitely love, just like I said in my review on the Tenacious and Persistence, I love the full flat grind on it. The blade's a little bit broad in this span right here, but man, you talk about a slicer. Notice the relief edge too, dudes, on this Tenacious. See how the relief edge is a little bit longer? That's something I think the Vex lacks, and it hurts it in terms of sharpness and sharpenability, in my opinion. Anytime you have a very steep relief edge, and again, this is just me, guys, in my experience, it's harder to sharpen. This knife really needs to have its relief edge reprofiled. I would like to have a more shallow approach to the cutting edge myself, because it's coming from a relatively thick blade, about 1/8 of an inch thick, not down here where the relief edge starts, but you get my point. It's kind of a steep approach to the cutting edge. The blade shape is excellent, though. If I were to, I'll again throw in the Tenacious in, I probably prefer the full flat ground Tenacious and its relief edge over the Vex. Okay, good steel choice though, no problems with that at all. Let's talk about deployment speed, since I can't think where else to go. Right there. Slower. I think I mentioned that. One is you have somewhat of an occlusion on the deployment hole. See that? It's not completely accessible. We've seen that a whole bunch of different knife designs. The Vex has that problem. You're going to have to really dig your thumb into it and do a little wrist action, in my experience, to get that Vex out quickly. We could roll all kinds of knives in here. The Skyline, once again, has a flipper tang on it. Super fast deployment. And then rolling in the Tenacious again. Non-occluded deployment hole, milled out handle scales and frame, so you can totally access it, even with gloves. Really fast deployment. Both wearing phosphor bronze bushings. The Vex has that too, which in theory should make it come out really fast. I don't find it comes out wicked fast. It's not bad once you get your technique down like that, but I do a lot of missed deployments on the Vex. Just like that. See that? It's just a little sticky, and yes, I adjusted the pivot point a little bit, seeing if I could improve it. A little bit, not so much. So it's a little bit slower to deploy. That's somewhat of a hit there. I like the blade coating, a little titanium gray coating on there. From indications, it appears to be pretty durable. Oh, what do you know? They got jimping on the top side. Jimping. Nutnfancy talking about jimping. Huh. It's pretty much worthless, by the way. And that's another hit. Don't put it on there, guys, if it's not going to be functional. Make it sharp. Make it dig into the skin a little bit. You can do that without shredding skin. There's some on the locking liner here. That's also smoothed and radiused. I don't find that it locks in that well. Nice finger groove here, getting onto the handle talking point. Jumping around like I always do. finger groove, so it locks on. It's, as far as the groove goes for your index finger, not too bad. In the reverse grip, something that I don't really envision doing with this particular knife since it's an EDC blade pretty much. Yeah, you could do that too. Disappointing, that jimping is, to me. The G10 is going to be that lower quality G10 that I've talked to you guys about in several other reviews. Remember how there's different quality levels and therefore there's going to have higher traction? The overseas produced blades that we've seen a lot kind of have that slicker G10, and that's what it is. I still love the G10 choice, and at this price point I think it's an excellent handle material. Still a little bit thick on the handle scales, which makes this a somewhat chunky knife. Notice this. You see anything that's missing in there? Talking about the weight? No milling out whatsoever of the liners. So that's kind of a miss too. Let's bring in, I don't know, persistence. Where'd you go? Okay, and this is another competitor against the Vex. You notice there, you're going to see the liners drilled out nicely. I mentioned that when I reviewed that like a long time ago. Way to go, Spyderco. Great blade, the persistent, tenacious. I sure wish they had done that on the Vex. Again, not a big deal because they're not making it anymore. So talked about the speed. By the way, blade shape, there is a Tanto version of this floating around. And no, I would not prefer it. I'd prefer this one. I'm a big clip point fan. I think there are places for the Tanto blade. Very limited though. Very limited. Just depends. I think they're a lot harder to sharpen. And it's funny, guys will say, well, I have no problem sharpening that. And here we go on the side. This is going to make the video longer. Brace yourselves. Philosophy from Nutnfancy. Well, what I say is every time I do a knife check on someone I meet, whether it's a Nutnfancy dude that I run into maybe at SHOT Show, in the stores that I go to, and we have a great time catching up, talking. You know, we'll talk about knives. I'll check the knives out. Every time I see a dull knife. It's rare someone breaks a knife out that has some use on it, that has a good edge on it. Most guys don't know how to sharpen knives. And there's always a reason. Oh, I was going to sharpen it, you know, I meant to sharpen it. And a knife like this, like I said, without relief edge, I think it would, after reprofiling, it would sharpen so much better. But I think having difficulty this is my point, sharpening just a clip blade, it's even more difficult for guys to sharpen that Tanto blade with that abrupt transition to the tip. Okay, just me. On to ergonomics. Okay, I wouldn't say they're great. They'd be a lot better if we had functional jimping. I do like the finger groove, somewhat squared shoulders on the handle scales. I see this more and more in a lot of different blades. Okay, not great. And something I forgot to mention about the handle, which is good, flow through construction, so that's awesome. So mud, blood, and guts flow on through. You can take the handle scales off and service the blade if you need to with a mini Torx driver. It's got a lanyard hole there for attachment, just like a lot of other quality blades do. Again, with a tenacious, I always got to pause there and make sure I'm telling you the right knife. The tenacious persistence are so similar to me. And again, the weight's kind of an issue. Durability, I think, on the blade is great. For a $35 knife, and that's what this was rocking around a $40 price point last year. And that's kind of the category it's in. I mean, that Cabela's thing is going to be so short-lived, it's not really representative of what the knife came in at. It's around a $40 price point, 35 to 40. You're getting a lot of knife for in the Vex, in the 10750. It's lockup, and I didn't talk about this yet, very tight, up and down, side to side, no play whatsoever. On par with this competitor, in this case, Persistence, just great blades. And you'll be happy with it. So if you're looking for a more rugged knife, and it definitely is a handsome knife, don't you think? The Vex might be what you're looking for. I think the value is high at that price point. Not outstanding though. Okay, outstanding would be, another reference knife coming in, previously reviewed in the Nutnfancy project, Buck Vantage Select, the small version, 2.4 ounces. What was this? $20? Still is. Look at my Buck Vantage review, dudes. This is a great blade. And let's talk about EDC Grind Choices here. This is kind of a thicker blade wearing a fatter, that's just a word I think of when I look at the grind on the Vex. It just seems like a fatter grind to me that doesn't slice super well. It seems like it cleaves more than it slices. Look at the hollow grinding on the Vantage Select Small on the 420 HC steel, which continues to impress me with its capabilities, actually. Great cut and steel, easy to sharpen. This is a knife that really cuts. The hollow grinding on this knife, yes, I do like the full flat grind, I know I say that, but a good hollow ground knife like the little Vantage right here, awesome. But we're talking about value now. To me, there's a better EDC blade. Okay, it's lighter weight. It carries like perfectly deep like that, and this brings us back to the clip design, which I skipped over. Goofy clip on that Vex. Look at that. That's a goofy clip. That's where the problem starts. It's got the double wave action going in it. Not sure why. You know, it's like skateboard ramps or something. I think they were trying to get more traction. This is supposed to like adhere to the cloth more. Don't know. It's way too obtrusive to me. I do not like the clip, and I don't like how they force tip down carry either. You can transition it left or right for lefties and righties. So that's cool. I'm cool with that. I like it. Can't go tip up on it though. Okay, and again, getting just by way of representation back to the Vantage Select Small. Yeah, tip up carry. And I know different preferences. Guys would like different things. I can deal with tip down, tip up. I do it all the time. But look at the persistence by way of reference. All four corners, you can position the clip wherever you want. It's kind of spoon build clip. I think I said that in a review, but overall, pretty good. No double wave there. The clip is another miss to me on the Vex. Okay, it is coated, matching the blade. Looks so the color scheme throughout the knife is consistent and handsome. I like that. But we're talking about value finally. $40. You know, I might opt for definitely the persistence. Talked about that. The tenacious. Actually, that's tenacious. Here, the persistence. The Skyline, all-time favorite. Continually impressing me in its EDC capabilities. And incidentally, I run into a lot of you dudes. I see a lot of TMPers carrying this knife. When they say, Nutnfancy, check it out, man. I bought a Skyline. How about this knife? Kershaw Packrat, 1665. Not very well known, but what a great knife. I would opt for this knife over the Vex any day at a $40 price point. This one rocks around a $41 price point. It's assisted opening, has a better steel in my opinion, 14C28N. I think that's a little bit better steel. I've had great luck with it. I love those Kershaw serrations. I think I've mentioned that in a lot of reviews of all the manufacturers. They get serrations done right. They're not obnoxious. They cut cleanly. There's a better value in my opinion than the Vex. Good looking blade, locks up tight and strong. The Vex does. And it still is a good value. Don't get me wrong. I don't want you guys to think that I totally hate the Vex. But for all the things I talked about, the abrupt relief edge, the lack of jimping, the clip issues, a little bit chunky and definitely heavier than a lot of other EDC choices, I would probably make another choice than the Vex. I just would. There's so many great knife options out there, and we're lucky to have them. And every manufacturer I show you, that I've just shown you in this review, does so many great designs. Benchmade included. Big Benchmade fan I am. Thanks, guys. That's my review. Day late, $1 short. Better late than never. Nutnfancy. See ya.